There's a lot of colloquialisms in the shooting industry, such as, I'm not going to let them get that close. That's why I carry a firearm. Well, odds are, if they're a criminal and any good at it, they're going to try and catch you by surprise. And to do that, they're going to be as close as possible, possibly even ask you a question before they get up into your space. If they ambush you and they're close, you got to think about when the appropriate time to draw is. Now, you may be thinking, well, what do you mean, right now? Well, that's true. If I would have thought about it and known that it was going to happen, I would have drawn before the situation even took place. However, we don't always see it coming. And once it presents itself, once we're in that situation, we may have to take a step back and fight for our draw. Because at this distance, I've enlisted the help of my friend here. At that distance, closer distances, the minute that I start to draw for my gun, any instincts are going to take over to drive that person towards my gun to save themselves. They're going to try and gain access to it. If they do try and gain access to it, it's now a fight for the gun. So I may have to take into account that I may have to strike, I may have to punch, I may have to utilize another tool. I strongly recommend carrying another tool, such as a knife or a flashlight, something in the offhand position as well, so that you can reach out, grab that tool, and jab or fight with it. Even your hands works. Jab, fight with it. So if I'm close to the target here and I go to draw for my gun, you can almost envision him driving in on my gun. So I'm going to have to camp my body and fight for my position. So I not only have to worry about the threat and whatever threat he was presenting to me before, now I have to worry about how do I get my gun out in this situation. Well, if I draw too early and he grabs it, I've just introduced another lethal threat into the equation that I didn't need. So make sure, one, that when you draw your gun, you have control of the situation. I may have to grab that hand that's got the knife in it, or grab the offhand even while I'm striking or punching until I gain access to my firearm at an angle back like this so that I can come across and engage, come up top and engage, whatever I have to do. How do we validate that on the range? Well, it's kind of difficult without a live target in front of us moving back and forth, but what we can do is change our proximity to the target, play that scenario in our head before we draw, and not just go off of a buzzer, but go off proximity to the target. Is that target closing? Is that target already stationary and right there in front of me? Is it far enough away that I know I can go to full extension? Do I have to do something else to work to get to my gun? Do I have to fight with the target before I can gain access to my firearm? So a way that you can validate that on the range is simply think through a scenario, think about what you would do in the context of that scenario, and then actually shoot by playing that scenario in your head and then going through the live fire portion. All right, I'm at a distance which is 2 arms length plus some roughly here on the range. And at this distance, depending on whether they're closing or they're already at a stationary position, I might feel comfortable go ahead and draw my gun without gaining distance from a stationary position. So that would look something like this. Okay, so from this distance, I didn't move my feet, I didn't do a whole lot. If I'm closer, I may want to consider getting my gun sight away from the target and putting a hand up to guard my face. Anything up close where they could strike me with their hands, an object, blade, or whatever, I want to be able to cover my head. So again, with the importance of a one-handed draw, I have to be able to cover my head and change the angle before I draw my handgun. So that angle may change, he may come closer, he may back up and get farther away. Remembering that we're going to use those auditory cues to back them off before this if we can, I'm going to roll right into it. Hey, stop! Get back! Don't just think that because you have a gun and because you carry a gun, that means that you're safe. It means that you can eliminate the threat. You have to train with your gun, you have to know the context in which criminals operate, and then you have to use that context to your advantage. Work with a live resistant opponent, dry fire with the CERT, and work out all those kinks in your training plan. You'll find out that a lot of the phrases and sayings that are cool may not apply to real world situations.